Hey everyone, this is a continuation of the Q&A. A lot of these questions came in February, but it is currently March. One of the biggest questions that I want to spend the most time on, and I'm thinking maybe this needs to be a series, is about a child, but applies to adults as well, which is just your nervous system being in a constant state of fight or flight, causing changes in neural pathways, changes in self-soothing habits, maladaptive coping practices, trauma from an early age that can stem into learning differences, etc. This is something that is really big at my home right now, in conversation at home, and is just a really big topic. So I do want to say, I would love to invite questions. I would love to invite commentary, but I can only speak from my personal experience. So please do not dissect everything that I'm saying, everything that I'm not saying. I'm very open to hear your perspective and your experience, but this is a vulnerable subject for everyone, me included. So just please respect that. And let's have a conversation and help each other to open our minds to different perspectives. So this question in particular is about a 6-year-old who was adopted that experienced trauma at an early age and has caused some learning differences, has caused maybe some maladaptive coping mechanisms, and has caused the child's body to just be in this constant tense fight or flight state, which, as most people know, if you've experienced that, it's very hard to respond in that place rather than react. And that can be very difficult for everyone around the person that is feeling triggered, that is having this constant reaction, rather than being able to respond from a calm, self-soothing place. So what I want to break down really quick, maladaptive coping mechanisms. What that means is that you have not yet learned good, healthy coping mechanisms for yourself. And so because you've experienced all this stress and you've had to self-soothe, your body has done what it thinks is best for you. It has experienced this trauma or this stress, and it has surged and freaked out, and your brain and your body's response is like, what do we do? And oftentimes, without having the proper tools, your body will resort to what it knows to do, which is shutting down, which is what's the word, spacing out, what do you call that, when you zone out, you space out, you detach. It has caused people to turn to substance abuse or any sort of self-soothing habit, whether that is taking a substance or, I mean, this is a really dramatic example, but eating laundry detergent. Like, all of these strange habits that we hear about in the world stem from this place of our body trying to cope. Overeating, binging, different eating disorders of all kind can stem from this. I mentioned substance abuse. I mentioned zoning out. For children, this can typically come out in OCD. This can cause them to have these really intense needs to keep everything and like to never get rid of things, because in some way their brain has decided that that thing is soothing, and having that around them is soothing. Thumb sucking is a self-soothing mechanism. All kinds of things, it's going to be different for every person, every child, etc. But that is what maladaptive coping mechanisms are. So to this person, and this is what I'm experiencing at home as well, the number one thing that we can do is make sure that our children have some options to pull from, some tools in their toolbox. And what this is looking like for us is a meditating practice. And, as children really under 15, but especially under 10, it's not very often that they're going to do these things on their own. It's hard for them to remember to do these things, and they're still learning how to regulate their emotions. So a lot of times we have to prompt these things. So what I'm starting to do at home is saying, hey, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes, maybe longer if I feel like it. Join me. And I will have Augustine lay with me in silence and meditate for however long. And I will talk out loud about what I'm doing. And something that my mom taught me that I use a lot is like this cat and mouse game with your thoughts to try and quiet your mind, of like a thought is a mouse. Every time a thought comes through, it's a mouse, and you just have to swat it away. And eventually it keeps the thoughts away. So that's one thing we're working on. I might even say, hey, go grab your headphones. I want you to do this guided meditation. There's lots of guided meditations for children out there. Another thing that I'm doing is some writing prompts, where if Augustine is feeling really big emotions, or is shutting down or what have you, I might give him a writing prompt that just helps him to break down what he's experiencing. What caused this? What caused the way you're feeling? How are you feeling? What caused the way you're feeling? Why are you feeling the way you are? What is the ideal response? Stuff like that. There are worksheets like this for children online as well. But sometimes we'll just try to write down some things, especially if we're not at home and we're on the go. Definitely getting to bed early. And I know that a lot of children fight sleep, and that's fine as long as they're in a resting position. So let's get them in bed early. Let's make sure that they know that when you sit down for a meal, sometimes we're eating just to nourish our bodies. Like, that's something that I try to talk through with Augustine as well, of like, if he's like, ew, I don't like that, or I don't want to eat that, or, oh man, I wanted pizza. I try to fill him in of like, I love pizza and ice cream too, but our bodies need nourishment. Our bodies go through everything for us. And so it's important that sometimes we're eating as a way to fuel our body, our energy reservoirs, to nourish our brain, get all those vitamins and minerals, And when you just simply take care of yourself and kind of walk them through these kinds of things, it's going to stick with them. So these are just some of our things. Another thing is herbal medicine, of course, is huge in our house. I gave Augustine a couple things we already make, which is our brain fog and rest in peace tincture. But I also made him this apple cider vinegar honey oxymel thing to add to his water at home at least once a day. And this is a really good way for him to get some vitamins and minerals. But then I'm also putting some herbs in there like passion flower. Passion flower is huge for children, adults, everyone with learning differences, with just burnout, fried, fight or flight, all that stuff. So passion flower, very relaxing to the entire body. Catnip, skullcap, chamomile. I'm sure there's a lot that I'm forgetting, but motherwort can be really nice. There's a lot of really great options. And so we're taking brain fog in the morning, whether it's the tea or the tincture, and that is really helping him get his brain in drive for school, for focusing, for memory, for all those things, saturating all those neural pathways. And then in the evening, we're either taking rest in peace tincture or drinking rest in peace tea. And then throughout the day, drinking water, he can add that to his water. So I'm trying to think. I've made a video on burnout before, which it's weird to say that in regards to children, but if their mind and body is in a state of fight and flight so frequently, or was at one point so frequently that it's become habit forming, then they are experiencing a type of burnout. And there is the things I just mentioned, brain fog, rest in peace, all of that is helpful in the moment, day to day. But when we hit that burnout place, it's important that we also focus on recovery. And recovery requires deep nourishment. It's not going to be those herbs that give you that immediate relief. It's going to be things like bone broth or a mushroom broth if you're vegan, things like very nutritive meals, trying to cut down on sugar and gluten just while you're in this recovery period as much as possible. And then some things that we use for recovery: ashwagandha, amazing. Eleuthero root, mucuna, lucuma, a lot of things that are in our adaptogen powder, our drinking chocolate, our habituate tincture, milky oats, holy basil, shatavari, ashwagandha, all of those like tropho-restorative and adaptogen herbs are going to really help us to recover. Adaptogens are amazing because they kind of like smack yourself in the face internally and are like, all right, gear up, let's deal with this stuff and move through it. But they're not necessarily things that you take every day. That's where brain fog, rest in peace, and things like that are going to come into play. But really just making sure that you're giving your child those tools, those self-soothing tools, so that their mind isn't going to those maladaptive coping mechanisms. If your child has already got some of those, which is definitely something that Augustine has, then that's when those worksheets are coming into play, because when they're going to that place, you want to check them out of it. You want them to recognize why they're in that place. And they may not mentally recognize it, but simply writing through that is going to trigger a little something in there, and over time, you will see results. Now, I want to be very transparent that I am just now entering this place of research. So there's probably a lot of things that I don't know yet, and I will try to discuss them on here more frequently. A book that was recommended to me was Play Therapy for Parents of Children with Autism. Augustine does not have autism, but there's a lot of good stuff in there for ADHD as well. So we're reading that just to get some tools from there. Basically what we realized was our normal parenting skills that we were pulling from were no longer doing the trick, because he doesn't learn or digest things the same way that the average child does. So for us right now, we're kind of in this place of like rethinking our parenting to support him better. And I think that that's huge. I think the child recognizes that big time. Another thing that's been amazing for us, Augustine has been in therapy for 5 years now. He's 10. It started around age 5 or 6. He loves therapy. We love his therapist. It's made a huge difference in our lives. I think it's very helpful for him to have this sort of random person that he only sees in this place to be able to talk through things or play through things. And that's just been huge. Another thing that we are fortunate enough to have found this year is a holistic pediatrician. We never were able to afford one, and one popped up that actually takes our insurance, and that is amazing, because a holistic pediatrician, the first thing they're going to do is take blood samples and see what's going on in the child's brain and body, or yours if you're seeing them as well. And it's very, very helpful to see small things like, oh wow, that your child is severely vitamin D deficient, or your child is is a candidate for being gluten intolerant, or their body's not processing sugar well, or whatever. All of those things can be absolutely pivotal in figuring out what's going on and the best sort of care plan to put in action for your child. And for yourself, we also see this holistic doctor. They just happen to see children as well, which has been amazing for us. So, even things like having your child take their vitamins and make some tea, that is teaching them how to take care of themselves. And it's big in their worlds where the entire world is not focused on teaching kids how to take care of themselves. So just even being mindful of those little things, having them help cook dinner and walking them through why you're eating the certain things that you're doing. We're introducing a lot more fish into our diet, clean, good fish that we're ordering from the Alaskan Fish Company, because omega fatty acids are so freaking good for developing brains. So I hope that's been helpful. I do think if you go back and listen to a video called How to Let Herbs Change Your Life, there's 2 parts. There's probably some really good nuggets in there as well. All right, thanks.